I'm going to call the workshop to order. It's 5:05. I'm going to turn it over to staff, and I believe you said Mr. Eric might be sharing with us a little bit about administrative complex.
Yeah. With the last meeting, we handed you all a copy of the program that in its current form has been provided. At this point, it's mainly just at a program that has, and of course, there's not a page on the third page of it, a list of all the people that we would anticipate being in the new building and the space required for them. This was done by our staff and provided to HEB at this point. So really, all of this came from us as to who would be in it. I don't know if we got into complete recommendations. And then following is a whole bunch of room diagrams that were drawn based on that program. With the one caveat being the break room, we failed to provide a size that's much too large, so they drew a more appropriately sized one. Then there's some adjacency diagrams in here that would show how these would go together, what offices are next to what other offices, and interior, exterior entrances, that sort of thing. And then finally some sites. We have picked 4 different sites actually, where the old blue building was between the probation and the Living History Museum, where DFAX currently sits, this site, and where the treatment building sits are the 4 sites. And I think what we need to know tonight from you all primarily is the list of people that we're showing being in the building. Is that the group that you want in here, or the people left out? Do we need to add some? The diagrams of the rooms, are those appropriate in y'all's mind? There are 2 different cubicle workstations in there. We've discussed in the past, there will be a lot of those. Those layouts are in there. And then finally, trying to drill down to a site, and where that matters more than anything is the configurations of the property itself lends it to, is it a 1-story building, a 2-story building, and what are the dimensions of those in those configurations. And what I would say, and Eric will walk you through it later, but I believe we have sites that we can locate this on that a 1-story building will fit. 1-story building will be more cost effective, so I would suggest that you all look at only sites for 1-story buildings, and from there we can start determining the size and shape and so on and so forth from there. But that's kind of what we're looking for. That's what we need to make the next step going forward. We actually put these room diagrams together to make a building, a floor plan. And for that, I'll let Eric come up here and straighten me out.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you the work so far and answer any questions. I guess you've got this report in front of you, correct? Okay. The first thing, as Toss mentioned, is that what we call a program. It's what spaces, what size would be in this building. This was originally created by Adam Kobeck. We have gone through these spaces with Toss and his staff to make sure everybody that's supposed to be in this building is in it and has had some input. We've made very few changes. One of the changes was to provide the commissioners a space outside of the commission meeting room where you can put down your briefcase, purses, laptops, just a little place to plant yourself before and after meetings, maybe return phone calls. That's a very small space, but something that we thought was necessary. We also looked at consolidating some of the units and co-locating them, like the engineering with the environmental health. So those were the brown color codes. We came up at the end of it. There's a net space of 10,875 square feet. There's a multiplier because that's, some of y'all are going to be familiar with the real estate. That's the net versus gross. And so you've got to add in the wall thicknesses, the corridors, the bathrooms, the janitor's closets, the electrical stuff, all the mechanical, all of that. And generally we would use 30%. When we get into conceptual design, that may be adjusted up or down. It's rarely adjusted down. How big a lobby is outside the commission meeting room, et cetera. So right now we're looking at roughly 14,000 square feet. And that would assume a single-story building, which is why some of the 2 stories are a little bit higher, because you have 2 stairwells, you have an elevator equipment room, duplication of some of the toilets, etc. Then as the administrator said, we took some of the rooms that we had square footages that were provided in the original report by Adam and put actual furniture in them just so people could see what size they are, what fits in them. You can see the commission meeting room is right at 2,500 square feet with 96 seats. You could put a couple more on that back row if you needed to. The next one is just the commissioner's workspace, just how small it could be. I mean, it could be bigger as we move forward, but that just gives each one of you a place to hang your coat and laptops. Then what a small conference room would look like. County administrator's office, large enough for a small meeting gathering in it. Your typical director's office, 150 square feet, that's what most people see. You know, that's a desk, a credenza, file cabinet, a couple of guest chairs. The next one is a little bit smaller office, but again, you see what fits in it. The workstations were originally programmed at 80 square feet. We showed two different sizes, but the workstations always are in groups and they have circulation around them, so you still look at about an 80 square foot total for a workstation. But some people would get a smaller one, people that are outside all the time and coming in just to file a report. Other people that have more work to do would get the larger one. We had no detailed conversations about some of the records and planning rooms, so we just made some up based on what we do, just to show what could fit in there. Obviously, those will get more input as the design progresses. Same with the plan room and the copy and scan room. So as the design, we'll find out more about the size table, how many files they have, what kind of layout space they need. We showed a gang toilet, meeting all the ADA handicap requirements. That will probably be new to you in this building, but there are requirements to make everything handicap accessible, and it makes them a lot larger than the older facilities. We don't know how big the bathroom would be until we do a design, but this just shows your typical 3-station male and female. The single station toilet, you can see they're much larger. You have to be able to rotate a wheelchair. The two break rooms Toss mentioned, the first one is the size that was originally given to us in the original Adam Kovac program. It's a fairly large one. So we also did a second one, which would probably be a more typical size for an office building like yours. But depending on whether you have just coming in and there's a birthday party for somebody that's on staff, depending on how big it'd be. But we just showed two sizes just so you could see how large the original program was. The next sheet is what we call adjacency. Who's next to who? There'd be the main entrance, the meeting room like we're in now, that could be closed off most of the time, but you still didn't have access to the rest of the county staff. Obviously, the little lobby you have in this building is very small and hard to maneuver, and you have to interrupt somebody who's doing work to get in. So we showed that the probation would have a public back entrance for the probationers, sort of separate them from the general public. Then we have staff entry where people can come and go from the back with a public entry. So study all of that. This again is assuming a one-story building. Then we were originally given 3 sites. After meeting with the city manager of Springfield, we added a 4th. We stuck in there the original master plan for this government complex that was done 5 or 6 years ago, I think. I guess when they built the courthouse was when the new courthouse. So we've got what we call option 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the locations, keeping it downtown, keeping it close to the other facilities. Option 1 is where the DFAX building is, behind where you're sitting now. That's the largest one. You can see the acreage. All the rest of them are about the same size. And I'll discuss some of the positives and negatives on each one as we get to them. Number 2 is the site we're on now. Number 3 is somebody's over there now. It's just a house. It's basically empty. Who was in that building now?
There's nobody.
The what?
Drug enforcement?
Yeah. It's vacant.
Okay. Number 4 is the storage building. That's the one that Springfield wanted us to look at. And you own all of these. There may be a switch with Springfield. We'll get into that. There's some general notes. We made some assumptions. We're not spending a lot of money to survey and do underground and all of that. So we assumed because of where we are that utilities are available. I think that's a safe assumption. We've used Google Maps and the tax maps to size the properties to do our test fits, except for the site number 4. Our firm surveyed that 5 or 6 years ago when we were working with the city of Springfield and making their park. So we had an actual survey of that site. No geotechnical, but that's probably not an issue here. And then last, we all care about trees. Most of the trees that we found probably aren't worth, you want to save as many as you can, but none of them we think are what we would call specimen trees that should prevent you from building a building and planting new trees, except for the 2 oak trees out in front of this building. Those are probably older and nicer and on Laurel Street. So we worked around those. Then we took each of the 4 sites. We drew a drawing of the existing facility. Parking is an issue, as you know, particularly on court days, so we wanted to analyze the existing parking and whether new construction is going to increase the amount of parking that's available or decrease it. So each building is, and these coming from TaxMax, Google Earth, observations, so they're all pretty close. That's the DFAX building. Has 41 spaces. Then we took a 1-story building, 82 by 172, 14,000, remember that matched the gross area of the building, increased another 20 spaces of that. So that's what a 1-story building would look like. Now, that's our understanding that that's a difficult process to go through. Even though the county owns it, there's a long-term contract with the state for that building. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but that's the negative, and you have to figure out where you're going to put DFAX.
Eric, did you say that option 1, we would be able to have additional parking since it's larger?
Yeah, if you look at the site 1, option A, where it said existing parking, that was what that site has now, and then additional parking, we added some more parking across the front facing the old courthouse. And just cleaned up the parking a little bit. So that's, again, these are what we call test fits. Just, the building's not designed, but we have a 14,000 square foot block on there, what we could add. The next one we were looking at is whether or not 2-story buildings, while they will cost you a little bit more money, does it give you enough more parking to be beneficial? And you can see in this case, I think we only added 4 more spaces. Yes. Site number 2 is, remember, it's the existing one that we're on now. There's a sketch of it. It's got 43 spaces around it, existing, and we showed the 2 oak trees out front. First, we did a 14,000 square foot 1-story building, added only 7 spaces, of course, tore down both of these buildings to do that. The next one went to a 2-story building, which gave us better parking, 22 more spaces. And then we looked at a third option on this site only, which was keeping the 2-story, the old Sunday school building, with the assumption that it's still structurally sound. You would have to gut it and bring it all up to code. But you could keep that building, it's brick and here, and then add on the rest of what you need in replace of the old church. So that was just an exercise to show you what you could do if you wanted to keep part of this complex that we're in now. All right, site number 3, down to the northwest, is pretty empty now. Really has no parking. You can pull a couple cars into the driveway. So we did not show continuing the parking on the easement of, let me see what street that is. it's not labeled. The one that's northeast of the historic courthouse, there looks like there's a whole right-of-way that could be used. We did not use it. That shows you a 14,000 square foot one-story building and 15,000 square foot two-story building. And then what we did on this one was a third option just to show you parking. With the courthouse having the demands of parking that it has, that looks like a pretty good location. It's next to the museum and the courthouse, and next to the historic courthouse. So if you wanted just in the long-term planning to think of maybe that site as a good place above the hill to Laurel Street, just to sort of designate that as future parking. And you could get more in if you use the right-of-way of the street that dead ends into that property. Site 4. I don't know what you have in that building, but I'm told I guess that's just a storage building for the county. It's it's oddly shaped because of the parking is pulled off of Oak Street, but that's your existing layout. 31 parking spaces around it. Then we show a new 14,000 square foot building, and you add 26, so you get up to 57. And the theory on this one is what Springfield was talking about was rather than doing the 3 lots in one long linear park, that maybe you go here and you use the ball field, the other 2 lots, and this lot with sort of an L-shaped park that would then face and get on Laurel Street. That's sort of what their thinking is, and why they suggested that you as the county look at this site, which would allow the front of this building to be facing the park and the old courthouse, and backing up to Madison. So those are just the quick and dirties. Our contract with y'all says once we are given instructions on where to go from here, that we will then begin conceptual planning and come up with a preliminary plan, renderings, what the building would look like, a preliminary budget for you, and at that point our contract would stop, and the decision making of moving forward and paying for it would be in your laps.
Originally, when we started talking about building, and I thought we were going to do it anyway, is to find out what it would cost to redo this building that we're in now. I know the back part of it is in bad shape, but this part of it, I don't think nothing's wrong with this front part of it, over the church part. But anyway, that was discussed. That's been discussed the whole time, but it fell through the cracks somewhere along the line.
Commissioner, this seems to be a good building. That building behind it is probably not anywhere near codes, and
it's in bad shape. I know that. This here.
And several of y'all are in the real estate arena and know that sometimes it'll cost you more to renovate than it would be to tear it down and rebuild it. This probably falls into that category. And there's one other thing to consider. And we do a lot of these government buildings and complexes, and that's why we're here, we think, is how hard do you want your buildings? How much do you want them to withstand the tornadoes, the hurricanes, and be able to operate? And that's a valid issue for a government complex. It's not just the fire and police, but you've got a county to run. So I think generally you're going to want some sort of hardening in a new building. So generators, stronger resistance to wind, and whatever else might come along.
Well, this part is a brick building, and of course it's all brick, but I know the back, the floor is a bad end. We had to move cabinets out the back of it. You'd have to put something on the building. I don't think there's nothing wrong with this floor in this section of the old church. And that's what I wanted to see originally, and we talked about that at some point in time. Anyway, it fell through the cracks sometime.
Well, that was part of the reason we looked at the Sunday school building, because without doing a lot of inspections, it feels like and looks like it's structurally sound. I don't know. I can't tell you what this building it is.
The one next door here?
Yes, sir.
Well, we could cut that up into offices too. I mean, we got a bunch of space here that we could actually utilize. But anyway, we'll see what happens.
How much current space do we have in the current building?
Well, let's see.
It's 7742, I think, on that one. I don't know what is still,
We did not size the existing buildings, except for the Sunday school building that we were looking at keeping.
You just helped me get a picture of what this 14,000 square feet that we're proposing would do. And I know, how cramped we are now. If we're at 10,000, it's 14,000 gives the size that we need for growth. Which I have a comparison with,
I should have introduced Lauren Prepper, who's an intern architect that's working with me on this process. We have the measurements of the building, so I can email you back what the square footage of this, both of this building, the back building, and the old Sunday school building is.
the old Sunday school building, first and second floor is 7,000.
7740.
We have that one.
7,700.
7740.
7,740.
That's gross, right?
Yeah. And basically half of that is not usable on a daily basis because it's just one large meeting room and a kitchen. And this is larger than 2,500 square feet, and it's not usable on a daily basis. We have another conference room. So I think part of the issue in your comparison of this building to another one is we just have a lot of spaces that aren't used daily in here.
But anyone you build, all the space is not gonna be used daily anyway, yeah.
No, sir, but you wouldn't have a large social hall and a building. Yeah, you'd have half of this and then you'd have not that.
The 30%, at least for growth, or what you maxed out, then you moved in.
And what I think, if you go back to y'all's commission room, the diagram on here, you have movable chairs. So that when you have these larger functions like we currently house in this, what we call a large conference room, you could have them in your commission meeting room as well. It'd be multifunctional. This one has hard mounted pews that you can't move and a sloped floor that makes it a little difficult to set up the things.
Looks like, and we had, I'm sorry. It's like we had talked about too, if we had to do something temporary to get us through from here to there, depending on how long it took or whatever, some of that area that we're not using, like where we let parties be held and things like that, we could divide that and have that with section work
Yes, ma'am.
spaces.
Absolutely.
Like what we're planning on doing in here, and it's just a big open space, so.
We could do it one of two ways. We could just put cubicles in there to get through, or you could hard mounted walls, which would simply give you reinforcement of the upstairs, which probably wasn't designed for the loads that are currently up there.
That's a good point. You will need, if you do anything in this area, you'll need swing space. You'll need some place to operate temporarily. And one other point on Commissioner Loper's, building codes are a little vague, but the rule of thumb is that if you renovating more than half the value of the building, you have to bring the entire building up to code. And that may be a significant cost to this building too. I work for you, so I'll go any direction y'all want me to go, but just...
There's some level where you have to bring it all.
Well, we'd have to put new windows in, and I mean, that would be one of the first things is, we'd have to put new windows. They've been in there 70 years probably. And anyway, but I think the building itself is sound, it's brick. I haven't seen any cracks down beside the brick where they had to fill it in with concrete or anything. I mean, I think all this is solid.
To also listing the different departments that would be the new building, the environmental health, is that where our septic tank permits get issued?
That's correct.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure that we did, like you said earlier, we brought in the right departments. That's one complaint I get from time to time, is sometimes some of the permitting processes, folks have to go to 3 and 4 different places. So.
Correct. And they still have to go to 3 or 4 different offices, but at least it'd be in one building.
Yeah.
And that was the idea. The ones that we did not try to bring in here were EMS, were fire,
That's what I would say,
911.
it would be easiest for us if we just have a list of what's not in here, that,
Well, like I say, EMS, fire, 911, and then the ones that are in the historic courthouse, tax commissioner, tax assessor, And I could get you a complete list, but, the ones that didn't make sense to move, obviously we can't move 911 dispatchers from the 911 center in here.
I would say a complete list would help us be sure we don't miss somebody that we actually wanted in there, and otherwise, that'd be the easiest way. But yes, so that it's actually, customer service oriented for citizens as well as a time-saving, work process for employees, both.
The only one we're moving from the old courthouse would be the zoning and environmental.
Correct.
All the rest are just courts and tax commission and assessor up there, right?
Zoning and GIS.
Zoning GIS would move back over here, right?
Correct. And they were supposed to have already, we just filled in the space. Or filled up the space that we have, right?
And I may be complete, I'm trying to figure out probation. Is it necessary? It just seems like a little bit of an odd one in there,
Doesn't have to
but maybe it needs to be, I'm not saying.
be. It was just,
It's the only one that jumps out to me, like, maybe questionable.
it was just a way to be able to close in another building.
Yeah, I got you.
But it doesn't have
Okay,
to.
that makes sense.
There's separate office over here now, right?
Probation's over here.
Okay. You see over here, they're not in the courthouse,
They're on the other side of the courthouse. The little house,
Little brick house there.
yeah, across the street from the courthouse. I don't remember the street name.
No, I'm fine, but I was just trying to.
Well, they don't have to be defects, as I think in Bryan County. So, some are, you know, in Bryan County, didn't defects in Bryan counties?
No, we did Liberty County.
Liberty County.
Defects.
I think defects is in there, again, it can be,
Yeah.
We put away the defects, there's two of them that it wouldn't make any difference, but defects, if you put it on option one, what would you do with defects? They've got to go somewhere. But there's other things, so number one, as far as I'm concerned, you can just scratch it off.
That's a good site in the long run, though, when their contract runs out. That is something you probably want to grab back hold of. For parking if for nothing else.
The only other option out here, and this is up to y'all how you feel about it.
Defects, you got to have some place to go. If we go to that, defects,
and where would they go?
defects would have to go
Where would they
somewhere.
go?
I don't know. We don't have on anything large enough to place them into.
Do we have any responsibility for that?
I don't think we do. We just have to deal with them, maintenance, a little rent where they're in there, and obviously they need to have a building. And I think Eric explores some things where some private developers too that can come in and build spaces and then lease it back to them. So, there's options. We just have to explore with them.
Is that a possibility to turn one of these other option lots into that, sell it for profit, let them build a building for defects? And
I guess it's a possibility. We didn't look at that. Now, Stephanie and I did speak with them a while back as far as space needs, what they need. And they expressed a desire to be close to the courthouse because they're back and forth, through court and so forth.
And one of these other options would be close to the courthouse.
Yes, that's right.
And they also need some more room.
Yeah, that's right. They did.
They need more room.
So you might take that storage, option number 4. Let somebody buy that and put a defects building there, take it out of the government. Our hands completely. Use those.
Four, there's nothing on four that you couldn't be moved, or number three.
What's that?
Number 3 or 4 would be no problem. I mean, you both got a building on, they can do away with them, but I don't see where you can get option 1 or 2 at this time.
Well, unless you provided another opportunity for proper investment for them. That's what I was looking at. It's just not just another option. If you tore that building, and you took number 4 and somebody took that, not us, we developed it for defects, you might get some resources out of that. Number 4, and you still keep a pretty good government.
What would you do with defects?
Somebody built a building at number 4.
Oh, number 4?
Somebody built a building, not a court, not an administrative building, but offices and maybe a private investor or whatever.
4 would be fine, there's nothing on there that said no children
Yeah.
building.
And you can use that revenue for the courthouse on this administrative building, and you still got a pretty good government block for growth. You've got this area and the area next to the old courthouse, new courthouse.
Let me also
They
make
all
sure
live in
that,
this one block.
that the board is aware that currently the funds that we get from DFACs outweigh our actual cost each year. So we do receive some funding that does help in the long run, which is general.
What are those numbers? Outweigh, I don't know, what does that mean? How much?
Because the building's already paid for, which basically you're saying, other than utilities, we're getting money back for depreciation,
Correct.
which is to.
It's not technically rent, it's a maintenance in lieu of rent. It's supposed to be to offset the maintenance. And so basically what Joanne's saying, we get
Have to
that
see the
from.
numbers, we just have to see.
Understand.
Yeah, we need to, bring that to the cost.
Understand.
Lauren did some calculations, 15,190 gross square feet in this three-building, we'll call it three-building complex.
15,000.
15,200 square feet.
So really, we need about the same space, we just need more functional space.
And-
ADA.
And up the codes, right. Hey, y'all don't have to, this is just taking it into advisement. We're available anytime to answer any questions, to look at anything else. Y'all probably want to chew on this. But if you got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I kind of hear what Mr. Loper is saying about the current building, we got 15,000. I know it'd be very expensive to redo, but I just wonder if it wouldn't be good to look at some numbers of what it would be to tear it and us, or completely gut the backside, do a new facade that's really in keeping with a beautiful community that Springfield has now. You know, it may be the same cost or more, or it may save $1 million. I don't know. You know.
We should have a lot of this building that we're not using well.
Right,
We
so
change that back.
we came over here and put the supports for the upstairs and put the walls, you know, the offices downstairs. It takes some thinking outside the box that you guys can do, you know, for a nice lobby and entryway. It'd be worth maybe getting that looks to it. Because it is centrally located, everything we have now. Is that something that's crazy, or is that possible?
Depending on the scenario.
I know this is very old, and I know it's going to be.
Depending on the scenario, you might, I don't know, but it might be a whole certain area of that you would want to take back down like we did at the jail or prison or whatever to the slab. And then build that in a functionality and then enhance this. That could be a possibility.
But I heard Eric saying this back here is probably the worst construction.
Yeah,
Back there.
But behind this might be.
That would-
And that's okay too, I think this is the only part that if we're gonna worry about maintaining something structurally here, it would be the, you know, that part could still.
So you took this
that
back
could be-
down to the slab possibility and rebuild it and be able to add the walls and the structures in there.
So we
and
do a
nice
plan
facade.
on you maybe.
we can clearly go any direction y'all ask us to do, man. Happy to do it. That will take a little bit more destructive testing, a little bit more poking around and looking that we haven't had to do on any of the other sites. So.
That slope floor is quite an obstacle on the train.
Is that a huge obstacle, the slope floor, because of the slope floor, is it
I mean, I
a
don't
huge
know.
obstacle, or because the ceiling's so high, is it easy to come in here and level that floor out?
I'll have to look at the codes. You've got one big glaring problem, and that's bathrooms. I don't know where the people go to the restroom that come into the public space. Ramps, I mean, I'm really more concerned with energy codes, the wind. You know, we've got hurricane issues that this, even though it's withstood several of them, that may not be. That's why it's going to take more testing. You probably don't have plans for this, which means we've got to go poke holes in ceilings and find out what the spacing and the size of the roof rafters are. I mean,
Let me ask you this way, maybe in a different way. I don't know, and I don't know if this is anything that they want to consider or not, but it seems like maybe, and that's why I'm wondering. With this building certainly should probably be able to be restored separately in some kind of way as a historic building, could it not?
Mhm.
Like, you know, with the other part of it, I think it's an addition that wasn't historic, but, you know, I don't know. So that if you're worried about trying to get this particular section to all of a sudden meet complete code, it would seem like we could.
there are grandfather exceptions,
Yeah.
but somebody has to say what
Everything
that
else would be handicap accessible, we'd have bathrooms and have all that. to meet it just like we should, but for this one section, that might not be the case.
But, and I think this building and that building are probably salvageable. Don't know how much money. I really don't think that one is.
And see, that's kind of what I'm looking at. I see that bottom downstairs, and I'm thinking you could make a front entrance with a nice lobby, offices. You could bring these walls back here this way for bathrooms, for the meeting room, then plenty room in the back, I think, for bathroom. We don't need 200 seats for, I think the one you have here is 100 seat chambers. So, you know, you can bring the wall there, put nice bathrooms back there.
There's 2 rooms up there, they're just full of junk. There's nothing in them, but they're not being used.
Probably not big enough for public bathrooms for
Yeah.
a crowd, but we could get some more space. And then if you could level this back here, that may be the only thing you need to rebuild. And then put a matching facade, it might be real attractive, and it might save us $1 million.
Originally, that's what we talked about doing. Our last chairman, he brought all this stuff up. He really wanted to tear this building down, I don't know why. But every weekend, he wanted to tear this building down. He didn't think about no other place to build a new building that was gonna be built right here, so he's gone now, so we don't have no say so.
Well, and I think right now, we're more interested in efficiency, but we want something in keeping. I know that Springfield's got a lot of resources in beautifying the town, and we want to add to that. But at the same time, we have other fish we have to fry. If there's a way we could, you know, for the next 10 or 15 years, have a nice building that met the growth and save us $1 million or $2 million.
Good architect's a good listener, and I hear you.
Yeah, sounds good. I wouldn't mind if Eric would take that. He was agreeable with that. And maybe a side option as well, and get it. Because what we're looking at today, if I haven't misunderstanding is, we're looking at getting a plan with some costs so we can budget for the next, whatever years it takes to make this happen. It's not going to happen next year or the year after.
I'm certainly open to having information so we can add it to the side.
And so I'm wondering if we need to sort of give the firm a little direction, like is there a site that we like better than this one if you don't do this one, so we can compare those costs. You know what I'm saying? Like if you build a new building on site one, for example, that cost would be this. If we built and followed the code and did all the things we need to do with this, that cost would be this. I think we might need two
3 or
options.
4 would be no problem if we want to start building tomorrow. I mean, 3 or 4 would not be any problem.
I got like number
We could
one,
do,
two, right across the street, number one, number,
One
yeah,
is,
three.
that's feedback.
3 of them.
Yeah.
I agree, I like number 3.
3 and 4, either one of them, I mean, we could start on them tomorrow. I mean, that would be no problem whatsoever. We could start on them, but there's nothing to keep us from.
we could do a simple, a 14,000 square foot, 1-story budget on a green site, which is basically number 4 or number, I forget the number, the one down there. And then do a back of the envelope, what the cost would be to renovate 2 buildings and replace 1 building. But they're, without a design, without a lot of investigations, they'll be back of the envelope, as we call it. But we could give you something that maybe helps you go in one direction or the other.
When you say back
I
of the
like
envelope,
that.
I mean, how realistic is it? Because the one thing that I like to try to be careful about is getting an estimate, making a decision on it, and then it being so rough that it's nothing like what we really end up doing, and then it costs us $2 more million because it didn't contain anything that we really, you know, how back can we really talk about?
Architects are notoriously bad estimators. We can give you per square foot cost. Contractors are much better estimators, particularly if we don't have anything to estimate, which would be the problem with looking at this. But that doesn't mean we can't give you some work product that answers this question, or at least says, let's look further at it, or let's write it off. That's what we're trying to do, is give you enough information to make some decisions. And you're not.
I think they can give us some worst case scenarios with what you're asking about.
Yeah, that was
Like I said, the best case scenario, if you tear this
Not a
down
best case.
and you find this, it could be another 300,000. If you tear it over here, you find that, it could be.
And
What's the worst case scenario?
what I mean is things like let's don't look at pricing metal building when we know, if we know we're going to do brick, and those kind of be as realistic as possible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Between Pooler and the metal building, huh?
Mhm.
Y'all, something between the pool or city hall and a metal building, that's where y'all want to fit in.
Yes.
I don't think we want to build it. I don't want something secure. Yeah, probably want to pull you got a beautiful building next to you, and the courthouse has been redone, we want something in character, I would assume.
I understand.
We want it to look good. Whatever we do, we want it to look good.
Right, and you should. I mean, I argue even as a conservative fiscal former elected official, government buildings are, I mean, you're not tearing them down and flipping them in 10 years. I mean, they're going to be here long after y'all are gone, just like this building has been. They're a symbol of democracy, too. So I wouldn't shy away from doing it right. That doesn't mean you have to waste money, but if you do it too cheap, you'll end up tearing it down, or somebody else will tear it down in 15, 20 years.
I mean, time changed. The commissioners used to meet in the historic courthouse.
There you
Can you
go.
imagine now? Stuff the meeting.
Everything was in there, sheriff department, everything was in there.
Sheriff's office was where the tax collection.
You still see over the door on the left-hand side. That was the sheriff's office.
I remember there were inmates in jail. So it's been changed. You know, my thought is that option 3 would be the better site. It's going to be a whole new structure that keeps you in to get the courthouse and over and next year. If you do option 4, you just got a pretty good little distance between the two. This keeps it a community.
No, 3 would be, three would be right in the hub of everything.
Right. So for me, Commissioner speak up, I'd like to see the option 3, the cost of rebuilding, that we talked about, what we looked at, and then the cost of option 2, keeping these 2 buildings, taking this one down, and how far it's going to take it down to what it code. Because it sounds like it's going to actually provide us more room too for growth between the 2 of them, 1,000 square feet, and maybe more if we rebuild this one correctly. I don't know.
Well, if you write off the defects building, then on 3 and 4, you could do, both of them will fit a 14,000 square foot one-story building, and even though our plans, they're slightly variant, we could make them the same. So
The landscape,
Yeah.
parking.
and I'm much better at giving you an estimate for that building.
Okay.
And then we'll look at, try to do the best we can on giving you the information we can get on this building.
Well, I'm being concerned, especially on option 3 is parking, especially on heavy court days. All of our spaces getting filled up and our employees wanting to be in the park.
Way right across the street from the old courthouse,
No, if you use-
that parking lot on the next Early Street, it never fills up. You got a bunch of parking on the other side of the old courthouse.
You would pick up that, and also, Jimmy, I'm thinking, if we don't use this building, would it not be some portion of it going on anyway, that you kept historical, and could be putting the parking on this side, we can use it with 3 new ones, and make it really, it's just gonna really get bad off.
But if we're going to do that, we need to look at the pricing of that. That needs to be included.
Yeah, I think when we talk about doing it, I don't know if it's selling or not. I don't know if we want to sell this property. So,
We don't want to build it. Have any cool, just.
that's right, so the cost may be cheaper of the new building, but then you may have the cost of upkeep of this one or all the other things. What's the cost of demolishing all this and leveling it so it can be functional?
If you look at the original master plan when they did the courthouse, there's a parking deck in that master plan. And I know it's hard for folks in Effingham to be thinking of a parking deck, but you're a growing dynamic county, and in the long run, that may make sense on this property. Plus, it can also be a revenue generator for government, just like it is, and we're doing one in downtown Beaufort now for the county. So in the long run, having a place that can satisfy parking and maybe even give you some revenue.
Well, I do think that's a cost we need to have if we build somewhere else. Demolition cost of this, additional parking over here.
Pay to park at Springfield.
You pay the courthouse.
Parking shop.
I'm not saying now, Commissioner, I just in the long run.
That's a real cost that probably we should have in there with that. What's it gonna take to remove that's going to add to the cost of the new building. Versus that cost would not be there if we reuse this one. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And we have a lot of options to work on.
I do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have to say something, right?
I just hope you don't mind if I say a few things. Brett Bennett, City of Springfield. The one thing I guess I would say is the city has been involved in some discussions with Tulsa and with Eric, as Eric said. We're just kind of looking at planning this area. I don't know, I mean, most of you were raised here, but if you're an outsider trying to come in and find offices in and around this area, it's difficult. There's not a lot of signage. The traffic flow doesn't work very well. There's not a lot of parking. We've talked about parking in the past. So the one thing I guess I would say is we always need to keep that in mind. The city has SPLOST funds set aside and has for, I think Eric mentioned surveying about 5 years ago. That SPLOST funding has been sitting there kind of waiting on this park to coordinate with where this potential admin complex will go or will not go. So that's the one reason we've kind of been involved. So, what we're after with this park is to determine a location. I know you are working on that and we're working through it. But again, keeping in mind traffic flow is going to be an important factor for us in parking. We mentioned, as Eric said, option 4, just to throw another thing out there as a possibility. Not that that's a priority for us or anything, it's just something else to consider. Ultimately right now we have 2 blocks, potentially 3 with that option 4 site. We have had some talks about the city acquiring that from the commissioners and incorporating that into the park. So roughly a 3-block park area. Where those 3 blocks are is somewhat flexible. I just think that's roughly the space kind of we're looking at. So that's how we've been talking over the last several months about the different options and how one affects the other. So whatever decisions are made, please keep those things in mind and have us involved as much as possible.
I want to ask you a question if I can. You mentioned the city having SPLOST funds available, and you may have told us before. And what type of money are we talking about? If we're in a consideration, are you saying that the option that would work best in conjunction with the county's planning for the city is option 4, and or not?
No. We're pretty flexible. I agree. I think option 3 was talked about. I think there's some parking issues down around. It's pretty tight as it is anyway. And on
When you
court,
say you want to purchase the property at option 4.
we've talked about that in the past. The city into the park. That was one of the plans. But again, that's
Because
somewhat
that's
flexible.
one of the things I was trying to understand was when we're planning and we're looking at cost, if there's something that would benefit the city as well at the same time, and then they have some dollars that they're willing to help invest towards it, then I certainly want to understand what that is.
There's $600,000 allocated for that project
Okay.
in SPLOST funds, which there's also general fund if there needs to be some additional funding. But and there are some other variations, slight variations we've talked a little about of some of these options that might make a little more sense as far as incorporating some additional parking and helping with the traffic flow. But just please keep those things in mind.
Option 4, as far as if the city had that would be parking's what you're looking at?
The strictly a visual thing for me, a linear park all the way down to Madison, which is one of the main drags coming into town. You picture as you're driving into town, going back to the school board office to see a nice linear park all the way down to the historic courthouse one day. I know the DFAX building is sitting there currently, either to the historic courthouse or to a new potential admin complex if it were on one. It would just create that nice visual effect from Madison. We all, as government agencies, tend to put blinders on sometime and just make our decisions based on how it affects us. We're guilty of it as well at times, but that's just what I want to avoid. Is let's coordinate on it and let's keep in mind how it affects everything else around it. More specifically, the residents trying to do business.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if I could expand a little bit here, if it demolishes that area. How much space does defects need? Can we move them into a portion of our building? could do that.
You know, they're building probably as large as this one now, and they need more room. And I wrote it down, it's close to 40 offices, 34,
Oh, wow.
close to 40 offices, and they have to be private offices because of the nature of what they deal with, visitation. And I got a whole list I'll share with y'all, but they cannot fit in a portion of this, no, sir.
What are they actually paying?
Yeah, what are they paying?
What are they paying?
75,000.
75,000 a year? For how much space? Approximately?
It says it on that building.
It's like $8.61, I think, something like that.
Square foot?
You don't have to know me.
You pay $8 something square foot.
Sure they are.
So they're in a position, they can find something nice for that. It's not like it would cost them a lot if they had to move. Okay.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
Mine's slow coming back up.
This says it's 8,650 square feet at 8.694 per square feet. $75,202.
That sounds right.
So it's smaller.
Give me those numbers again, I'm sorry.
8,650 square feet
Okay,
at 8.694 per square foot
okay.
for an annual total of $75,202.
Very good. We have another item on the agenda for the water system, but we do have an item on our agenda for that, so if you like, the commission to discuss it during that time.
Yes.
All been advertised, and I gave us about 4 minutes to take a bathroom break, and then for a regular meeting. So if you came here for the water, particularly, it is an agenda item, so we will be coming back to that. Okay? We're going to 5-minute break, and we're going to come back to the meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order of the Effingham County Commission, April 4th. It's 5:08 p.m. Apologize for being a little late, we had a workshop. Before that, if you all rise, and I'll ask Jamie Deloach if you will get some invitation and press it back.
Please bow your head. Dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for all the friends that are gathered here today. Thank you for our many blessings. Please be with us this evening and help us do your will, Lord. And please be with our ward leaders at this time. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we're going to take a motion or resolution to approve the agenda.
Everybody has anything they want to add? I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
First, motion by Ms. Jones, second by Mr. Kiefer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Agenda's been set. Item number 5, order consideration to approve the minutes of the March 21st, 2017 regular commissioners meeting. I have read those minutes and found them to be an accurate rendering of our meeting. Any other areas of omissions or corrections?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
First by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. I want to welcome the public tonight. Once again, apologize for getting a little tardy, getting started at a workshop before. We appreciate your attendance. If you'd like to make any comments or speak at any time during the night, just please come up to the microphone, state your name and where you're living, that'd be great. Ask you to limit your comments, if you would, to just a couple of minutes, so that if there's a lot of people who want to speak to the issue, then we'll have plenty of time to hear from everyone. Documents to the meeting, in case you weren't aware, are located in our office. They're on our website and they've been posted. If you've had an opportunity to look at that, there are also agendas in the back of the changes we'd like to see those. So we'll move to our consent agenda now. Consideration to approve to allow the lease agreement with FP Mailing Solutions, DocuQuest for postage meters to automatically renew for a one-year term from April 22nd, 2017 to April 21st, 2018.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
First by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach. All in favor? All opposed, no. And that carries. We'll move to old business. Planning Board recommends approving an application by James Cigars for conditional use to allow for an event venue located at 1535 Fort Howard Road, map 475, parcel number 23 in the 5th District. Mr. Russell, you want to address that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you recall from the January 17th meeting, the board had tabled this item in anticipation of creating the permanent conditional use allowance in the AR1 district. That's still being worked on with staff and the board. I notified Ms. Sears of the meeting today to monitor, and I believe she's planning to attend.
Is she here today?
Not currently.
She's not here? I think in this item, we need to, commission, I would like to see us wait to approve the conditional use until we have the zoning reg. But however, there may be an event, that's why we said that we need to approve to allow them to not. We got to put the microphone and speak to this. So I think if they have an event that they need to approve, not to look at that, approve that event, so you don't delay your needs.
Good afternoon, we're the Hunts, and our property is located across from this section that they are planning.
Okay.
And our questions simply this: what does continual use mean? Conditional use, and then the other one say for an events venue, and it's not describing what kind of events they're talking about having.
Yes, sir, that's one of the reasons that I'm going to ask the commission not to make a decision on this tonight, because we're working on something to answer those questions. What would be the specific use, what would be the requirements, buffers?
That's it, that's what I'm here.
We don't have enough information as a commission yet to approve a conditional use, so we're trying to set a conditional use for events. And when we do that, then there'll be a public hearing on that zoning, will allow you to speak to that as well.
Okay.
And then we can address this particular property at that time.
Okay, so we'll be notified when that comes up?
Yes, sir.
Because I've had to constantly call to find out about these meetings. So we really need to be informed.
If you would leave us your name and information tonight, or call it tomorrow in the office, we'll make sure that you're aware when your meeting's back.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
And depending, are we going to table it to a certain date or how we?
Well, and help me with this, can we table it one more time?
The table 210.
You tabled it before, it can be tabled by the applicant once and you once.
So we can table one.
Table it back.
So we cannot table it again right now.
Disapprove.
Not according to your
So
policy.
if we vote down tonight, you said it's got to come before a vote tonight? Or just take no action?
You've got to either approve it, deny, or deny it, based on your policy.
I don't see what we could do.
And if we deny it, is a conditional use, is it exactly like the normal zoning where they have to wait 6 months to ask?
No, not a conditional use. They just have to go back to the planning board.
They will have to pay $240 in the end.
We have the.
We wanted to waive
We
that.
have the privilege of waiving that, don't we?
You can.
Yeah, because we're the one probably creating hardship, they're not having to.
I would want to waiving that fee at all. But in talking through, then if we deny this tonight, which is what it sounds like will happen, then they'll have to go back to the planning board, so it'll be advertised again.
Yes, yes.
There'll be a sign out front in the of the property again, to alert you all of that.
We would send out mailing
The mail also.
notifications.
Property next door, but no.
They follow within.
So what is the decision tonight? It's been tabled again, or it's been
No, sir,
postponed?
sounds like what they're saying is another policy. We're going to have to receive a motion to deny this request at this time.
And then they got to start all over.
And start over.
Okay.
Or just take it off, because you know, we get,
See, they just said we could not do that in the policy.
Or see, if we vote and we're to vote to deny, will you reach out to them and let them know what the process? Okay.
Do we need,
A friendly denial?
well, if we're willing to waive the fee because of our budget, should we put that in our,
Absolutely. If we have to take action, I would ask for a motion that denies the conditional use with the understanding that we're going to waive the fee,
the reapplication back?
the application fee, to come back before the board, with the zoning board, and then before us.
That's it.
Okay?
That's correct.
Do I have such a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to deny the request with the stipulation that it is, if they were to, or if they reapply for the conditional use, then the fee should be waived.
I second.
second.
I got a second from Ms. Jones. The first one, Mr. Kiefer, second Ms. Jones, to deny this request and waive the fee if they want to have that on board in the board commission. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. So motion carries. It's been denied, we'll re-advertise if it comes back. So we do not have a second reading, so we're going to go past the second reading since we've already denied it, of course. So we got item 3 on our old business, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Morgan Corporation to rezone 150.56 acres located near the courthouse on Lower McCall Road from AR1 to I1, map 369, parcel 5, in the 4th district. If they want to remember, it was approved last week with the stipulation of the surface mining on it.
Yes.
That was number 2. Any discussion? You may not be speaking to introduce that to you.
I'm just going to say good afternoon. Thank y'all for your service.
Any discussion or questions from anyone?
You ready to motion?
Ready for a motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
First by Mr. Bloker, second by Mr. Roach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Second reading is approved.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a good day.
Now move to new business. Consideration to approve a resolution requesting the issue its revenue bond for the county's water and sewer system. Ms. Rogers, let's speak to this.
Yes, sir. We didn't quite have time in the workshop, so due to difficulties with, we did take a while. Okay. We had prepared a little bit of a slide presentation to go over what has been discussed for several years now regarding the county's water and sewer. Currently, as you're aware, we have 4 loans. These 4 loans currently amount to about $21,500,000. We
Can you
have
audience hear her okay? Not speak real loud.
Let me see if that does it. In addition to that, we have 1 loan that is in process right now for $2.5 million for some additional line work that we're doing. The general consensus has been in the past that refinancing will save the county money in the long run and also ease cash flow issues. It will allow for additional capital projects which are necessary. And so we have been reviewing what the mechanism is to provide that refinancing. Currently, we have looked at bonds. The recap of those bonds would be that the county would receive cash from the sale of those bonds. The county would use that cash to pay off the existing loans and fund the additional capital. The county would repay the bond holders over time and a guaranteed fixed interest rate. In the past, we have been working with Trade Monroe, with Stifel, to present several options regarding using the mechanism of bonds rather than GFA loans for these additional projects. In your packet, you will find a sheet that is called Financing Summaries. It currently provides your current GFA loans, what the annual payments are, the maturity of those, and what the total payments would be at this point. Yes, ma'am. Should be the sheet.
Can we ask questions at this time on the
Yes.
anticipated projects, or you want to wait?
We actually have a listing of those anticipated projects.
My question was, I'm sorry to talk about it now, Sprayfield, now would that create zone 4 and 5, or just zone 4? Because we have 1, 2, and 3 currently, right?
Correct. 1, 2, and 3 pretty much takes up the available space that we have at the wastewater treatment plant. So it would be a separate facility. I mean, there's also several zones in Staffordshire, so we have more than 3 zones. That's just 1, 2, and 3, just half of wastewater treatment plant. So it would be probably zones 7 and up. I believe there's 3 in Staffordshire.
So that would create plenty of future capacity that we would need for a permit.
Correct.
Do we have to go back and apply for a larger permit, or we would not?
Yeah, we have to go through the permitting process with EPD. You have to actually permit the field and get the construction. We have to go through construction plans. There's fairly extensive soils testing and geotechnical type work established. The infiltration rates of the soil, water tables, that sort of thing. So yeah, there'll be a permitting process that we have to go through.
But we have the money available. And we got the approval.
Correct, yes.
The current spray fields, we have how much?
Sir?
How much liquid will the current spray fields have?
Do we currently have?
The current spray fields, how many gallons per day will they have?
I think our permit limit is 486,000.
What is our spray fields handle? 1, 2, and 3. That's what it is, 4,000.
And the hydraulic capacity is about 1 million, so we would basically double what we have.
And how much will we spray now?
350, 325 varies.
We also have some dollars in here to help with some of the pressure issues that we have, correct?
We've got 2.5 million for liquids. And another 1.5 million for producers, and towers.
Yeah,
The subdivisions are having pressure problems.
Right, we got, in the proposal, we got 2.5 million. That's sure.
yeah, can y'all can't read that.
We may jump around.
That one's got more items than we've got listed for projects.
That's correct.
That's correct, yes.
If you back up, you'll see the 8,000, you have the legal, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projects.
Yeah, this is a list of every single project that we brought to y'all back in January, just so you can see what wasn't on the list, as opposed to what is on the list.
Here's the 6 projects that you gave us in the workshop information. That's on the same page. It's 500,000 for Springfield, 1.5 for station upgrades, booster station, which is to your question about pressure, 1.5 million. Hodgeville gravity, 500,000. And Luby, which is another pressure thing, 2.5.
Those 3 items.
And then all the rest of which we have to complete.
And then if you look behind there, there's also this sheet, which was the recap from
Right,
prior
everything.
workshops. And that was everything. And if you look at that sheet, you'll check off number 1, number 3, number 4, number 6, and number 7. Should, because it was in the
That's not
agenda.
here.
But basically what they're trying to say, there's some things like the other wells, portable generators and additional wells and green zone wells, those items are not included in this.
Correct. This list that you have right now was the one we talked about in January with the 211,000 in maintenance that you've already approved and taken off. And it's what's left out of that. So you can see, you know, you've already approved a big chunk of it, that 211,000. This is what's left. And so you can see what we did, which was the septic receiving WRL, generators at key stations, and the reason that's also we applied for a grant, 404 hazard mitigation grant for those generators that we just don't know if we're going to get or not. The portable generator, the Melbourne well, and the green zone well is what was dropped off of that.
Just for, I guess, everyone's general information, we began looking at refinancing our debt through the bonds because we can save no interest, save hundreds of thousands of dollars. In doing that, we were looking at some of the projects that we knew we would need to do in the next 3 years, maybe 5 years, but doing earlier would be better. And so we combined those two thought processes, saving interest, which will help us lower our debt faster on the old monies, but also going to continue the new monies we need to do some things that's going to make way for the growth. We believe there's a growth coming to the Effingham County that's already happened, but really it's going to be bigger. We need to be ready for that growth, and part of the issue is that we have water lines to locations where the pressure is about max. So if there were a lot of homes, if we want house tops, which gives us more restaurants, which gives us more businesses that we want to help fund the taxes that we want to pay individually, we got to have the water pressure. So we're looking at doing some looping, which we believe will also save us some additional revenues because I hate to take a curveball, but what are we spending in flushing right now? So $100,000?
Yes.
So we're flushing a lot of water to keep our lines clear. But if we can loop it, not only improve the pressure, we get rid of a lot of that flushing cost. So the long range goal over the next 5 to 10 years is put that $300,000 or $400,000 back into a better water system. So looping is very important. Savannah doesn't give us the pressure they need to give us when EPD is required us to buy the water. So we've got to find a way to boost that flow and make us buy the water, but they don't give us the pressure we need. So we've got to boost that pressure. Hence, we need a booster station if we're going to have the growth, or we need to build some water towers or whatever. So these are things that we believe will be investments in our community that will be receiving a good return on our monies, that will bring additional business and residential dollars into our community.
We're told on this project list, do we feel that with engineering, our staff, the UM, we can handle the labor and the facilitation of these projects, or do you think we have to hire any outside help?
I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you that I think we can do most of the engineering in-house. On the spray field, obviously we have to get the geotechnical work, you know, it has to be subbed out.
Don't you think the looping is something we could do in-house probably?
We could do that in-house. I don't know about the installation, that's a question, you know, for them. The looping is 16-inch, probably borderlines to complete the loops, if that's something they're capable of doing. The spray field, certainly they should be able to. They just completed those other zones at the wastewater treatment plant. The gravity on Hodgeville, if we have to do that, that's another animal that's probably pretty deep gravity that not a whole lot of people deal with. I would say the vast majority of it should be able to be done in-house. Whether 100%, I don't know, but the vast majority, yes.
Station upgrades, those are strictly the lift stations?
Those are lift station upgrades, that's correct. And we do know that there's capacity issues in some of them currently. And so we need to upgrade. We haven't looked exactly how far down. Now, to give a good example, the one on Beach Road, Laurel, Patriots Point. There's going to have to be some work there for the station to be able to handle it. Then it goes in into Buckingham, which I think needs to be upgraded, which goes to South Bend, that I'm not sure how far down the chains. They'll have to be upgraded for the development of the rest of Patriots Point. And then one of the other ones was the Goshen station, was constructed as a temporary station to try to facilitate some growth ahead of the gravity being in. And we've already upgraded the pumps from 5 horsepower to 10 horsepower, and they're already having trouble keeping up again. A lot of that dollar was to take that station out of commission and put it back on gravity like it was originally intended to be. So, yes, sir, that's pump station upgrade.
Which one? Put it back in gravity? Which one?
Goshen, the one that's by the Learning Tree House. It was never intended to be a permanent station.
So basically, many of the items that it's on the EOM report, is that correct?
I don't know if Goshen was on there, but it wasn't within the 211,000. And I think their report mainly addressed operations and management, things that were broken and need to be fixed, not necessarily capacity issues, because they just haven't, I don't think they've actually drilled down that far into it, actually looked at the capacity. They were looking at a controller was broken, a pump doesn't work, the lights out.
Okay. Those items, that money was already addressed in the Tucson.
Right.
That's
A great amount of what needs to be done in the was.
Correct. Within that 211. And we'll probably be coming back to you all. That's kind of a fluid process too, because they were making assumptions on things before. So, in other words, they noticed the problem, but they haven't assessed it to know what the problem is. So they put a price on it. And in a recent meeting, they felt like they may could do some of it cheaper, so we may be able to take that total dollar amount and spread it into even more projects. But in doing so, we feel like we need to bring that list back to you all, so we brought you a very defined list the first time. The same thing with the infiltration. They've completed the 4 that you all approved at about half the budget and found some additional ones they'd like to move forward with. But I believe that you all approved 4 stations with a not to exceed, so I think we probably need to bring that back in all fairness. But the spirit of it is absolutely we want to stretch it all as far as we can and get as much repairs done as we possibly can get done.
Yeah, we'll have to do a priority list. But the Patriots Point that you mentioned, what type of build out is still available there?
No, how many lots? It's 50, 60 lots, if not more.
I'm about trying to figure out.
That's a whole phase there.
Yeah, there's a whole other phase or 2 there. It's the ones you all just approved the setback reductions on about 2 meetings ago. There's probably at least 60 lots left, and it's a whole long list of manifolds into a force main that's not big enough to handle it, and then some downstream.
Originally, they weren't planned to come down to where they're coming to.
I think that's correct.
Right.
It does predate me, but I believe that's accurate.
Do we want to talk about the actual financing options, or is that something for another discussion?
No, sir, we were going to go ahead and go over those with you. If you will look at the sheet that's marked page, at least on mine, it's page 44 or 47 of the overall agenda document. There's a page that has columns on it. There's 5 different columns. The first one is the current GEFA loans. The second one is financing over a 17-year period, a 20-year period, a 25-year period, and a 30-year period. I understand that currently our GEFA loans are at $20,415,000. We would be asking for additional capital, which would bring our total to $28,770,000. In that 17-year loan, we believe the interest rate would be about 2.81. So we would be saving the difference from the 3.39 to the 2.81, or on the 20-year from the 3.01 from the 3.39. So we would be saving that interest on, or difference in interest, I should say, on the $20,415,000 of the original amount.
I don't have page 40 something showing where.
It is the same as
Yes, sir, it should be the same as this. At the very top, you'll see $20,415,000. The average rate is 3.39.
that's where we're at now.
Yes, sir, that's correct. The annual payments that we're currently making are $2,237,000. So if we went to 17 years or 20 years, on the 17 years, we would be making payments of $2,235,000. On the 20 years, we would be making payments of $2,016,000. So in the 20 year, that would free up a little bit of cash flow each year of $221,000. Staff is interested in that because of the fact we do have ongoing maintenance, so that would help a little bit with our ongoing items that we need to do each year. Though that interest rate would be at the 3.01. And looking at the overall, on 20 years, we would also be able to privately place those bonds rather than having to necessarily get an open market. And so that's another point in consideration. This is the overall picture for us, though, is that it would provide the capital that's necessary. It would lower our interest rate on the original loans for the rest of the period of those 12 years, and then allow us to move forward with the various infrastructure that we do need to complete or put in place now that the system has been and is being used.
So it'll give us the money that we need, approximately $8 million for repairs and other additional projects that are going to come on board to bring income in, one being the old Augusta area. Correct?
Yes.
The old Augusta area, what we've already spent, $1 million.
For the old Augusta project, I believe we originally did a loan with GEPA for $2.5 million. The actual project cost came in at more like 1.2, 1.3.
A little over 1.3. 1.3 something.
And in that, we have gone ahead and started spending that money. We have not gotten reimbursed from GEPA. We do have two in with GEPA right now for reimbursement. But if you look at the resolution that was done for today, that resolution incorporates either paying GEPA back that loan, depending on what process it's in at that time, or paying ourselves back for that infrastructure.
Okay, yeah, because I thought the old Augusta 1.5 was additional money we had to spend, but that's what we anticipate being the maximum cost for the Augusta 2.
That's right. 1.3 something is the construction cost, doesn't include the soft cost for the engineering and the testing that we had, easements.
So in your overall recap sheet that you have, it's $8 million. You'll see 1.5 at the very bottom.
Right. I thought it was more we had done.
I should understand this already, but I want to be sure. So when if we were to approve this as Kate presented, the resolution, it's going to encompass it all together in one, including the 1.5?
That's correct.
Everything?
Yes, and we had, in speaking with John Donnell, the attorney, the bond attorney, we had the structure of that already written so that we could do either or, depending upon what process we were in.
With regards to the current wastewater treatment facility, can you handle 1 million gallons a day? Is it the headworks and the irrigation basin, everything is set for 1 million gallons?
That's right. It's set for 1 million gallons. The only reason we can't put it through it is the late application side of it now.
Okay.
We don't have adequate space to dispose of the effluent that comes through. That's correct. The plant itself was built for 1 million gallons, expandable to 2.5.
Right.
And incrementally, the cost is a lot less to get the second half because there were certain parts already built on the front end. So we can go to 2.5 much more economically than we got the first.
Are there any issues with the current wastewater treatment facility that we're going to need to address that we didn't address already in the early minutes?
There's some maintenance issues, yes, sir, but those were included in the 211,000 you all already.
We've already got those set aside for those.
That is correct. Those improvements are already in place. You've already approved the funding and EOM is going to work on actually getting the vendors and the parts and the things to put it all out there.
We're obviously not need to make a decision on the turnaround.
They're requesting that in the resolution tonight, we state,
We're going to include that.
yeah,
Well,
which years.
in looking over 25-year, if you go that far, it's going to be another $4.5 million technically in cost. I definitely think a 20-year option looks better, in my opinion.
I agree. I think the benefit of staying with the private bond placement, if needed, if we have that option, I think that's important. Interest rate reduction. And then
And the fact that we're saying we're going to refinance that current debt, I felt that, where the interest rate is at 20 years, it definitely makes sense. You're still refinancing that rate. It's still an obvious savings.
I agree.
Now, what you will see in the resolution is we did put the resolution up to 29 million. We did so just to give ourselves some leeway, or we would not have to come back. Yes, that's correct. And the only other correction I would like to make is in the staff report itself, you will see option number 7 shows, or facts and findings. Number 7 says the resolution authorized the chairman to negotiate the terms and execute and deliver an intergovernmental contract. We did make adjustments to that wording just a bit within the documents itself. It's under new business number 1, page 2. We did change that wording to the Board of Commissioners of Effingham County rather than the chairman, simply because we believe that the board usually acts in these manners.
I would think you would appreciate that wording anyway.
Absolutely. And then this together. I understand the conversations that we had with the IDA director, we don't have the board to address it. Board might approve a resolution that they can consider.
That's correct.
So the recommendation of staff is number 1.
Ultimately, you will be the signer of the resolution. It is
And do we need to add the financing option? Is that in there?
the resolution itself simply declares up to a certain amount. It does not necessarily declare the mechanism, but you can deny it so that staff knows how to proceed.
The resolution is simply asking the IDA to do this, to issue these bonds. There's still an intergovernmental agreement that will have to come back and secure the payment of those bonds to you all as well. Trey's here, he drove a long way to sit there and be quiet, so.
We're all
Might as well listen here and talk for a second.
negotiate those terms.
Part of the add to the motion, I'll add
She's
that
saying,
option.
she's saying she changed
I think the
the wording.
motion would be for the 29 million bond resolution with a 20-year term.
Ultimately,
She was saying the wording was changed on that.
Ultimately, the original language, the resolution authorized the chairman to negotiate these terms and execute and deliver an intergovernmental agreement. All we're saying is, there still will be negotiations going on as far as executing and delivering the intergovernmental agreement. It will come back to the board.
Yeah,
So all we really need, if everybody's in agreement, is alternative number 1 with the 20-year financing, if everybody's in agreement with that.
You want to speak to it?
Well, I was just going to maybe clarify. I think y'all got it right, but the way that it would happen is the intergovernmental agreement would come back before the entire board, and that agreement will have the final term of the bonds, the actual interest rate, the annual payments. It would have all the things you've been talking about in it. So when that document is completed and prepared, it would be presented to the entire board for you to consider.
This is step 1, and we'll be approving a resolution to try to make that happen.
Yes.
And frankly, let's say the interest rate can change.
It absolutely can.
Daily, so the faster we move towards it, we may be better. I doubt it's going down, but.
Yeah, I've never been real confident in my crystal ball necessarily, but that seems to be the trend. The idea would be for if y'all were to approve this resolution. I've spoken with the IDA as well. As my understanding, they don't see any issue doing this. So we would next get them to prepare a resolution for the IDA to approve. And then from there, we would hopefully be back in time for your first, your June meeting with.
This is step one that does a resolution that puts our intention into writing to them so that they can then approve it and bring it back as someone to finalize it.
Correct. You're not actually committing to necessarily doing anything tonight. This just allows everybody to get the wheels moving.
So we're really, is a motion to approve a resolution requesting IDA to issue revenue bonds for the county water and sewer system, and can we have for 20 years? We don't know what the rate's going to be until we.
Yeah, I mean, the resolution doesn't specify, but you can.
Still pay, say 2.5%.
Oh, there you go. So I'm not sure the rate is as important as the term of 20 years.
It doesn't matter about putting, we can't time to it right now, so we'll be approving the rate when it comes back. If the rate changes on us, we may not approve it.
That's right. So you don't necessarily, the resolution today doesn't necessarily commit you to 20 years. I mean, you can decide a month from now you want to do 17. Or,
This motion is easy because it's non-binding.
yeah, there you go.
Okay, make a motion for Ms. Jones.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution as presented to the Board of Commissioners. And that we attempt for the 20-year financing best rate available.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Jones, second by Mr. Roach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. You'll so submit the resolution.
Not used to me taking a breath, but.
Thank you. Item number 2, a new business consideration to approve an amendment to the Aging Services Contract 2016-2017, Contract 2017-02.
Yes, sir. As y'all know, each year we enter into a contract for aging services. This provides our meals to the senior citizens. In doing so, we basically contract to serve 8,347 congregate meals and 12,090 home delivered meals. Each year they do have funding available both from the state and federal. At different times during the year, they do adjust those budgets where funding is coming from. This is part of their contract update for 2017 8.2 and is adjusting the funding and where it is coming from, both federal and state. Our required match has stayed the same, and overall program income that's required by us has stayed the same. It is simply them changing where the pools of funds.
Yeah, looks like we're just going to get more federal and state funding, and our match doesn't change.
Correct. Yes, sir. So we ask for your approval so we can get this information back to them and continue to receive our reimbursements.
Motion to approve as submitted. On number 1.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, I'm sorry.
are these the same people that provide the buses for us?
The CRC is the transportation portion of that is also through the CRC, but it's a different program under the
Okay,
CRC.
but this is not the buses.
This is not the bus
This is
program.
Okay, that's
This
fine.
is the meals.
It's the meals.
Okay, this
This
is
is
the
the
meals.
deal.
Great job.
You ready?
Nothing's changed until they get.
Make a motion to approve order number 1, approve as submitted.
First by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Deloach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The amendment is approved. Item number 3, the new business consideration to approve the fiscal year 2016 EMPG Performance Partnership Grant application.
Yes, sir. Clint was not able to be here, and so he asked me if I would to run this through tonight. This is for the GEMA. It is the performance partnership part of GEMA. It is the money that we usually use against the EMA director's salary. It provides for administrative, different types of administrative grant funding, and the total project cost overall is the $31,350. Our portion of that is $15,675, which we pay that portion of the salary and get reimbursed the $15,675 from the feds.
I noticed in reading this, it was a contract year from July 1 to 6/30/16, so these are past expenditures we're trying to get grant money.
That's correct. When we were looking at the current paperwork, apparently somehow, some way this last year, this was not brought before y'all. So we wanted to make sure that it was. It's already in process. It's one we do every single year. But in reviewing it, Clinton had asked me to sign a document.
Yeah, and that's the
And I could not
extension they
find where it
set.
had been before the board, so.
The one extension they set, we're trying to get resources for prior costs already expended.
Correct.
Okay. Any discussion, questions? Have a motion to recommend alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
First by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Loper. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Carries. Item number 4, consideration to approve to authorize the chairman to sign contract for coastal incentive grant award agreements and company forms for Steel Bridge and Abercorn Lane projects.
Yes, sir, this has been going on for 6 years, 7 now at this point.
We've been asking for the
It's just the formal contracts that allow us to move forward with the work. And quickly, the update, we finally got all of the improvements, all of the approvals on Abercorn Landing. If you recall, we had to do the work between March and May. We've identified the best that we can, people that do push slab construction, that'll be done at Abercorn. Through DNR that does quite a bit of these. They bid a lot, and there's usually 4 or 5 is the only ones that come along, so we've gotten all of their names. Posted it today, and Fiona posted today to have the work done at Abercorn and Steel Bridge push slabs. Now, we don't think we'll be able to get the work done for the actual wall at Steel Bridge this year, but we will continue to try that. NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Association, NOAA, is the last agency that had to approve this because they are what the grant actually goes through, and they've approved Abercorn but not Steel Bridge. So we're moving forward with the anticipation that they'll do that. We finally got our environmental permits. So it looks like at this point we're going to try very hard to get at least the push slab done on both of them. In the meantime, I will see if I can identify somebody else to build that wall, but it's just the work below the high water wall that can't be done after May. If we think we can get that done, we'll put it out to bid too, probably separately, so that we can get all that work done, then we'll back up with all the stuff on the hill. So we're trying our best to get the work done this year. I feel confident that we'll get the push slabs done, but I don't know about the rest of the work. Obviously, we can't finish Steel Bridge until that wall's in, but we'll do our level best to make that happen.
So you think there's a chance we'll get there?
Yes, sir, I do, because there's only a few people. We have to, we'll call all 4 of them directly, and it looks like probably it'll be May the 2nd before we can get it to you all, since the deadline for the next meeting is actually the day after tomorrow. I don't think we can have that done, but that will give them the month of May, basically, to put it in. So we'll be in conversation with them and see if nothing else, if we can get the bids back from them in enough time for the meeting. We may ask y'all to consider adding it to your agenda or something. And unfortunately, I hate to do that, but we have a very tight window that we're working on. So,
Okay, any questions or discussions? Motion for alternative 1 to authorize the chairman to sign the contract and all related form work at this time.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
First by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Kiefer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries. Thank you. Item number 5, consideration to approve a mutual aid agreement with the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals.
yes, sir, this is something that came out of the hurricane. Basically, we discovered, I guess, brought to light the fact that had we had to evacuate, which we did not, we didn't have a very good mechanism in place for getting the animals from animal shelter out of here. This simply sets up an agreement with the ASPCA to which we can request their help and they'll come in and provide assistance transporting the animals out and giving them temporary shelter somewhere. The only thing that it really requires us to do is act as a host facility in the case that there's something going on that they need to relocate animals, but we only have to participate up to the available capacity that we have. So, you know, we got 2 kennels empty, we take 2, we got 20, we'll take 20. And the agreement basically says everybody has their own insurance, they pay their own costs. It's really just a help for us in case we need it.
Any questions or discussions? Alternative 1 is to authorize the chairman to sign the mutual aid agreement with the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
First by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Loper. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries. Thank you. Item number 6, consideration to approve a sanitary sewer extension submittal form to the Environmental Protection Division, EPD, for Buckingham Plantation Phase 2.
Chairman, I'd like to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay. Noted that Ms. Jones has stepped down. And has recused herself. Okay.
Yes, sir. It is just that. It's simply an application that goes to the EPD to apply for the extension of water and sewer lines within the subdivision. The sanitary application requests that the local governing authority provides the signature here stating that the project has adequate transport and treatment capacity for the wastewater generated, and that we are willing to accept the project wastewater for treatment, and the sewers are not constructed on or structured on landfills. And all of these that happen, we ask the applicant to provide us with a letter stating that it's not a landfill. That is included in the packet, the very last page, 8 of 8. That just basically, we're doing all the lines and then saying that they look at it, they don't think it's a landfill there. We certainly have no reason to believe. So with that, we would ask for, your approval just so we can get this. It's just a step in the process.
Any questions or discussion? Alternative 1 is to authorize the chairman to sign the sanitary sewer extension submittal form. Have a motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
First by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Kiefer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries. Okay, we move into administrative reports.
I have a rather lengthy one tonight. I believe it totals 4 pages. You have your monthly animal shelter report attached. Just as a point of reminders, again, we've said this probably 3 or 4 in a row now. The Boy Scout letter pickup April the 8th, this coming weekend. Department of Revenue open house April 18th. We talked the last meeting about the banner for the new recreation complex. I believe you all decided we did want to name it. I don't know if there's any discussions on that, or if you all have any leads on a new name. We're still in the holding pattern. Celebration of Champions Day. Dr. Goldwire discussed this last time, April 22nd at the Springfield School, Old Central High School. And then I just put the Nelly Road on here. We continue to have issues there with larger trucks turning on that road despite the signage that we continue to try to place on there. And I believe it probably has everything to do with people just following GPS regardless of what it tells them. There's 2 little maps here at the end of it. The second one kind of shows you more of a zoomed in area of the end of the road there. The property that it dead ends into looks to be owned by what says SEPCO, so I guess Georgia Power Southern Company. And I just didn't know if there was any appetite maybe to look at if we cannot solve this problem through signage, which we've tried everything that we believe we can. We've tried to notify the mapping companies. We have a meeting this Friday with GP and the IDA to continue to try to do things, but it doesn't seem to be helping, at least not eliminating the issue. Do we want to try to look at possibly putting a turnaround down there? It doesn't necessarily have to be a paved 80-foot, just some way for vehicles to get out.
We need to do something.
because I've talked to these folks too, when they get back here, get their.
Well, whatever the drain field, and it's right,
And I guess my thought is that we can work with Southern Company, whomever, to get enough property here to be able to get onto. And we could fence around it or gate it where people still can't get in there. You know, probably a rock turnaround wouldn't cost a tremendous amount of money that we could do with our own forces to put in there. At least it would keep the destruction to the people.
We still should discourage them from going down there, but it does help.
And I would agree, the first step is stop them from going down there, but we've been unsuccessful to this point. So if we cannot stop them, is there any appetite to look at the possibility of doing something to help them out when they get there, to get out? And
I would say yes.
I would say yes, it's a great idea, but I haven't ever thought of this.
well, I'll bring that up at a meeting on Friday that we have, and maybe run past Dinah and just start that ball rolling and see where it goes, what opposition or hurdles we may have to do with it, and work off the costs, and we'll just get back with y'all what that will be.
Now, looking at that map, that's not our right of way beyond. I mean, that would be.
You know, if you look at the first one, it shows it running all the way through there. Without doing title work, I don't know.
See, there's a black line and it turns left.
It does, yeah, that's the center line that we have plotted. Yeah. It shows a right of way going all the way through there. I honestly don't know the road used to go through. We had right of way.
I believe that road was used when they built.
What was it, GP?
I can talk about it. Maybe it's GP. Could be. It was used during the construction of one of the. I'm sure it was just abandoned at that point.
I really don't know if we have or not. I mean, we want to know if we run title on that property and see.
I think it's easy enough just to approach George Powell or anything.
That's right. Yeah, I can just ask and see, you know.
Going back to that board talks, what did you say on that? Banner for the recreation facilities.
Last meeting, we had discussed placing one on the site, and I think the board had stated at that meeting that they would rather name the facility so that when the banner goes up, it doesn't say opening soon Highway 21 rec facility, that says, you know.
So we are needing to come up with that for the name.
Yes, sir, ideally.
We need to have a separate workshop on that, and we just have to live on the agenda.
However y'all would like to navigate that. If you want a workshop, if y'all just want to get, you know, that's up to you all.
I'm sorry.
Have a conversation with me about a workshop, maybe.
The naming of the new recreation facility, how to go about that is what Commissioner Deloach was asking about.
I think I would do a workshop, I think probably won't like the workshop, but we can do 30 minutes early.
That's what's the 30 minutes, I'll take it for an hour.
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Because I told them we're several times, and I told them I was looking for any ideas from them. They haven't got any crickets.
Yeah.
Crickets.
Whoever do a workshop in those, now it says we're trying to have ideas as well.
Do y'all want to have a workshop and invite the rec board? Or you just want to have a workshop?
I mean, I think it should good measure to at least invite us.
I agree.
I think that
Necessarily doesn't have to be enjoyed.
Yeah, but I mean, at least tell them it's happening for the purpose of that. I mean, they're all public meetings, but I mean, we're just inviting. So
30 minutes, come to work 30 minutes early, and let them know we have the workshop, and they can all come.
at your next meeting,
Yeah, that's good.
on the 18th,
Let's see, we've got advertising. So we have to keep that in mind, these workshops, we have to advertise.
And if we had to do it the first meeting in May, it would be a lawsuit.
That's why we have you keep that in mind.
by May, it's going to look much more like a facility. You'll have poles going up, fencing going up, the outfield mix is coming in now, the springs will go in May, probably later
You know,
May.
you can put the banner up and the sign up, so.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get here fairly soon, because it's going to go from just a dirt field to look like a facility here fairly rapidly.
Meet on the 18th?
When do you think we'll set the trusses?
You know, they were supposed to do it, I think you told me last week or this week, it was supposed to be happening. bases in for the poles already. They've already left, just staying the light poles up. They're putting the outfield mix in now. I think the irrigation's wrapping up.
You made it.
Good.
So it'll be at 4:30
I'll just do it right now.
for a workshop.
So we'll make a note of 4:30 for a workshop on the 18th, prior to our 5 o'clock meeting. Okay. Thompson, anything else?
No, sir.
At least to 60.
No, I'm sorry, one additional.
No, you've already said your name.
No.
Not quite.
The last meeting that we had with Rankin, we discussed 2 deliverables in agreement of fire stations and one on the PD document for Grandview. The fire station agreement is in y'all's boxes, and I'll be glad to send it out digitally to everybody if you want to mark it up that way. So there's a hard copy in your box. It was sent to Rankin earlier today. At this point, it's just been through staff, the attorney and I, jockey background, Clint's looked at it, Joanna's looked at it. It's a good starting point, for negotiations. The PD document, I have a rough draft of that Wes has put together. There's still a little bit more tweaking, but we continue to work on it, so we hope to have it pretty soon. But the fire agreement is in y'all's boxes, and just let me know if you want a digital copy, so you can mark it up and work.
Anything from anyone on the commission?
I called Dawson about this last week. I get some complaints about people who cut the grass having the roads picked up ahead of the tractors. I think Reggie came down, we talked about this last year, I think. And how we coordinate that possibly with the warden, maybe the inmates. I don't know if we can do it or not.
It's hard.
People appreciate you cutting the grass, but then they're mad because they cut the trash up Saturday.
It does, it shows the trash.
So I mean, it's
The hard part is they can't walk and pick it up as fast as the tractor.
right.
Well, the problem is, and somebody asked us a couple of meetings ago, do we have a routine schedule? And I checked in on the prison. The answer is no, and the reason that it's no is because we don't have enough outside details. Going back a couple of years when they did the improvements to the jail, we had a mass exodus of people that we moved over, bodies, head counts to staff that facility. And ever since then, we have 1, maybe 2 outside details. So they just don't have one to dedicate to that. If we want to do it, they'll certainly do it. We just need to consider that the budget of placing another one in there to go around the county and perform those functions. Right now, they've got one that does litter pickups, they do outfall ditches, they do things for public works. Now, this is a crew that goes around with a guard. It's not the people that we send out on a daily basis. If you can come pick them up, you can get them. So there's a lot of agencies that do that, but they can't drive themselves out and do litter pickup. So you got to have a body to take them out.
You get a lot of bang for your buck for that when you are paying.
So we have to budget to hire a guard to take this.
We have to budget to hire somebody. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a guard. If we have enough minimum security, they can take minimum security folks with them.
But like you said, I don't know how quickly they cut the roads, how far ahead they need to be. There's
Try to
traffic.
get out pretty quick.
Pretty
They
quick.
hope they don't throw it out before they get to it again. It's a constant battle.
So we don't currently have a team going out on a regular basis picking trash. Oh,
That's a need, I think. Like I'll call with a complaint.
See, that's where I mentioned, I wanted us to be hesitant about these crews that we've got going out to different counties. We don't have all our own needs.
Well, the issue I'm saying though is you've got the inmates, we don't have the guards.
Yeah, correct. It's not the inmates.
It's the other folks are paying the guard.
It's the
So
staff.
cities are hiring guard to come and get it.
So that's not taking away from,
Need to dedicate money.
right, it's not taking away from our potential to have one. We just got to provide our own guard.
The moments that we just have to hire one person versus a whole crew.
I tell you what,
We hire another person.
I would like to see the roads put them on a regular basis. If you can pursue to make that happen, I
Absolutely.
looked at the road along Blanford School, and after they cut the grass, it was horrible.
Correct. And it's one of the things through the budget process that we'll recommend to y'all, as well as how we handle landscape services in general. It used to be done with the prison, it went to a private company. That's a discussion. How do we do that going forward with a
It's
new
not looking good over
facility?
there right now at all.
Ma'am,
It's not looking good over there right now at all.
over where?
At, jail.
vendor doesn't cut that, the jail cuts their own, the prison cuts their own, that facility, that might be an indication of not going that direction.
Prison was good on there.
Do we send the people out to do it?
It's split on that because the jail and the prison's right there together. The sheriff actually cuts his part with jail inmates and the prison cuts their part and animal control with their inmates.
It's all split up.
Yeah, so that's a discussion we gotta have too, is how do we maintain that facility? Do we extend it over to Tidewater and allow them to keep it? And Clarence and I had this conversation earlier today, and we'll discuss it in, a future budget meeting when we start scheduling individual ones. It's a discussion for you all, really, how do you want to handle it? And, ask things to Clarence, what's your recommendation? Let him think about it.
So does the sheriff have his own equipment then?
Yes, ma'am. But he only does
His little section.
his, that's correct.
We were doing our new contracts with agencies outside of our county. We covered more of our costs. That is, revenues we generated from at least one in the future, another offset. If we offset the two together, we'll offset costs in the future. Follow what I'm saying there? When you need one arrangement, we can look at, say, when you look at Riverdale, where it was, look at the same type of agreement. And those two together, without increasing our budget.
Correct.
So, if y'all look at that maybe for the 2017 budget, it's kind of more similar.
That's right.
Is it worth having someone that just can handle minimum security or someone who could take whoever?
My answer to that will be, let me talk to the prison. I don't know what the exact numbers are. I do know we have a lot more minimum security folks now than we used to, but there are still some medium. So I don't know the answer to that. But I did ask this question when we were talking about doing lawn maintenance for the recreation facilities, the county buildings. If we were to take that all back in, I asked the question, could you provide enough minimum security folks so that they didn't necessarily have to go with the guard? If it was a landscape, a turf management person or something, and the warden and deputy warden's answer was yes, that they felt that they could do that. So it's completely conceivable that we can do it with minimum security people. But I defer, let me ask him first before I answer that.
And just to make sure I understand, we don't have any work crew team cleaning up highways and trash at this time?
We have one, sometimes two, and they're scratched between every request that they receive, whether that's picking up litter, cleaning out ditches for public works. They were over at the hospital the other day picking up tree limbs, whatever they do is spread amongst that 1 to 2 crews. The Pine Street, he told me today that he would do it Thursday. He would have that done. And he couldn't do it today because they're all over the range qualified, which they have to do periodically as well. So.
It's the same crew that does the mowing? What you just talked about, does the ditching and all, they do the mowing as well? That different?
Yes. That is my understanding.
Same crew?
Yeah. And I think we may have two. When I asked initially, there was one, but I think there was some misunderstanding that when we sent the crew to Lincoln, I believe is what he told me, we sent one of our guards and never hired one back, and that wasn't the point. They were paying us money to hire back, so I think, you have that straightened out?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we should have two now. They should have replaced that guard, and there would be two. That was part of the reason too, just a misunderstanding, it fell through the cracks.
Hi, this is Beth Orford. I live on Berryville Road, and I pick up trash almost every day up and down Berryville as I'm walking my dogs. And I was just thinking, is there a way to do some better prevention? I know we are trying to pick it up, but isn't there a way that we can fund something to help people be more aware of not throwing trash out? I just moved to the area, but this area seems to have a lot more roadside trash than other rural areas that I've lived in, and there's got to be ways to improve the education and prevention of it.
No, I agree. I think it's a wonderful idea. Keeping your county clean campaign, getting churches involved
in the schools, with the civic organizations. I don't know. I'd be willing to volunteer for a task force on something like that, because I just think it makes our county look unpretty, and it's a beautiful area. I love living here.
If you would
so.
please make sure that she has your name.
Okay.
I'll be contacting you about it. That'd be great.
Great.
I think the same thing, volunteers adopting the model.
Yeah.
Um,
And if we could work out the disposal of the material through, I don't know how we do that, but I've been thinking about it. I've sort of put a little proposal together. I'll come back to you with some of my ideas, if that would be all
We
right.
have some of the nonprofit organizations and churches that they, like, our church could adopt Ocean Road, another church might adopt Langford Road.
Yeah.
And once a month, they go and pick up trash.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else from the commission?
Yeah, I have some. Old Augusta Road to striping now, back to striping again, Toss.
Yes, sir.
I got two complaints last week about it. They said you can't see it at night, the lines on it. I didn't think it was that bad, but I don't travel it at night. But it did get steel well fixed.
Yeah, I thought about that too. I know we had sent a change order to whoever was doing our road restriping to ask them to do the piece that the board approved, which was from Rankin to Stillwell to 275. It wasn't the entire length of the road. I don't know why that hasn't been done either, but I'll be glad to check on it and see.
That's all I have.
Along those same lines, and I meant to call you, because I've had a couple of complaints on the new Dollar General there. The lights, they're terrible, yeah. They're mounted on the building, and they're just flooding that intersection.
I've heard this conversation somewhere.
Yeah.
I've over here on Facebook or something.
I've
seen
seen
some, there's other people are complaining about that.
Yeah, and it is an issue. I've seen
One
it.
of the fellows complained about striping on the road. He brought that up also, and he went and talked to them, and they actually lowered them some, but he said they're still too high, so he's gonna go back and talk to them again. So I guess he's gonna take care
If
of
it's a
that.
poor design, it should have been pole mounted lights back towards the building.
Business.
But I don't know if there's any recourse, if there's
We don't really have any lighting standards, and that's something you may want to consider. A lot of municipalities have all lighting, downlit lighting, and it keeps all that from happening. And I think it's a combination of where they're mounted and the elevation difference as you're coming up there. They really are, and they are bad.
And you would hope that would work, if there's.
I know that the buildings official had the same conversation with them when they were going through the CO process, so I do think they probably tried some things to fix it, but it's not remedying the situation. And unfortunately, we don't really have any standards to say all lighting must be downlit and or face towards. So I don't have an ordinance to cite them against.
Of course.
One other thing, I know we've been working with that event zoning or condition. We've got some events that aren't in compliance right now, we talked about. We need to probably make that a priority. Or see if we can have something on the 18th for us to review. And we got the document gave us last time, but if we need to get together this week, discuss it with us. Be great. Anything else from the commission? Anything from the public? I'm still having a need for a brief executive session. Have a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion to go into executive session, discuss personnel property and criminal litigation.
First by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deutsch. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Make it the executive session.
Maryville Road? Yeah, I'm up north. All of
Second.
Regular session.
Second, Cody. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. All opposed, no. We're back in regular session. Need a motion to add to the agenda the extension of the county administrator's contract.
I'll make a motion that we add an item to the agenda as new business number 7 to provide for an extension of the county administrator's existing employment contract.
Mr. Jones has made a motion, to a second. Second, Mr. Roper. All in favor, say aye. Okay. We'll act on this item now. Do I have a motion to extend the county manager's contract for 60 days?
Make a motion that we extend the contract for 60 days from the date of the contract.
Second.
Mr. Jones has made a motion, second by Mr. Kiefer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. And so we'll extend that contract for 60 days. I don't think there's any other business, is it?
Minutes, executive session.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're exactly right. Motion to approve executive session minutes of March 21st.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Mr. Deutsch made the first. Mr. Burke made the second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Now, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have 2 seconds. I'll put Mr. Floyd down. Who's on first? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Thank you, Stephen, adjourned.
3 a.m.
Thank you. Good.
That's enough.
To adjourn.
I gotta get my car.
I don't think I've been yet.
Who made the motion to adjourn? Not you, Ms. Miller?
The motion was by Mr. Loper, second for, I need to catch each one of you individually, y'all just call it regarding